Hello, my name is Miller Pike. I'm a producer and creator located in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and you are once again joining me on AP Studio Files.
AP Studio Files.
A podcast brought to you surrounding the conversations of art, creativity, and community in partnership with Apartment Party. Welcome to our Season 1 finale. If you're joining us for the first time, please also check out Episode 1 featuring Anya Kapishki, Episode 2 featuring Carrie Blue, Episode 3 featuring the band Rosemont Post, and Episode 4 featuring Alex Remnick. And if you've already tuned in, welcome back. We are so grateful for your support and listening ears throughout our first season. Corey Jermaine is a portrait photographer whose start began more in the ad world, which lit a creative spark and brought him to first shoot the street styles of Soho. Though now his creative home has landed in Bushwick, where you can catch him most days of the week walking around with a camera, shooting what I can only imagine will become iconic Bushwick photos of the 2020s. Corey's eye for style and ability to garner trust and vulnerability in his subjects is a huge key to his success. He has done several in-studio series as well, one culminating in his zine, the Bushwick Studio Session, which dropped last year on a limited run. Corey's vision for community has always really aligned with AP Studio Files, and I'm super grateful to speak with him today. Awesome. So welcome, Corey Jermaine. So I just wanted to give you a second after my intro to introduce yourselves a little bit to our audience in your own words.
Yeah, so I'm Corey Jermaine. I'm a photographer. I mostly shoot portraits in Bushwick. I used to shoot portraits in Manhattan, but I felt like Bushwick is the place where I enjoy taking photos the most. So that's what I'm doing now.
That's awesome. So just so everyone knows, Corey and I started meeting a little bit as like creative confidants over last fall, which was really nice because we checked in weekly and kind of had this like routine that was really nice to, I don't know, just keep connection and kind of keep that steady heartbeat of like our intention.
Yeah, it was like a nice accountability partner, I would say.
Exactly.
But like, oh, I want to do this. Okay, have you been doing this? And yeah, that helps.
Right. Kind of just to have an outside perspective of like your own progress. Because I think sometimes when you work on things so independently, it's hard to sort of take those moments like, oh, shit, I did do that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely helpful. And for the most part, sometimes I push things forward, but then I also fall off the wagon and I forget about stuff or time goes by. So someone coming in, you know you have to prep,
right?
To, for them because you don't want to let the other person down. So that really helps.
Yeah, it was nice because it wasn't like we were in each other's business, but like we kind of knew about it.
Yeah.
Which was nice. So we talked a lot during that process about our intent through our creativity. Can you speak a little bit to the intent of your work currently?
Yeah, I think right now I'm just really just having fun. I would say when I first moved here, I was trying to figure out how much I actually loved photography. I was working with an agency in Manhattan, so I was doing photography there. So I felt like the weekends became like my own creative outlet where I didn't have to do work for someone else. And then I would say probably over the last 2 to 3 years, I really started to hone in on the photos that I like to take versus the stuff that I thought I had to take or make to like get notoriety or for people like to actually like it. So I think with quarantine it happened, obviously COVID, you couldn't go anywhere. So it just forced me to do a lot more research and like find other photographers that I had never come across before because I was just seeing like the same work over and over and thought that I had to do that.
And you said kind of a little bit like the photos that you thought you had to take. Could you expand upon that a little bit? Like what was you were being pressured or felt that you needed to take a certain kind of photo?
Well, yeah, I guess it's just my understanding of photography was just small. It's just in a sense of like I knew I loved clothes and fashion and all that stuff. Therefore, my only references were coming from like fashion magazines.
Gotcha.
So you're just looking at those images over and over. So you're like, if I want to like be in the photography world, I have to take fashion images because that's what sells. That's what people care about. And then I just started meeting other photographers who didn't care about fashion and they had some other photographers that they liked, and I just started researching those people. And then I said, oh, it's like my world opened up. Like you don't have to take that type of photo to even be in that space. I mean, you can make your own photo, and usually they like that, and then they reach out to you for that, and then you end up still working with those places.
Right. And I think you sometimes, especially with photography, you can get kind of trapped in like that sort of capitalist mindset of it, for sure, like with the fashion industry and everything. So your intent has, it sounds like, sort of broken down a little bit in a good way. I mean, like a breakdown of your inspiration, perhaps?
Yeah. I mean, I knew I was just inspired by people, like, and how they dress. What was nice is I started to like leave this space of like, I have to capture people that know fashion or are very on trend. And I just started to be like, if I find this person to be interesting, I'm going to take a photo of them, just based on like, again, like discovering these other photographers who did these projects, and it wasn't around this idea of like, I'm doing this for the fashion industry, or I'm doing this for a particular newspaper. They're just doing it for themselves.
Right.
So I just figured I would just take the photos that I felt spoke to me and the people that I find to be interesting. And if it resonates, it resonates. And if it doesn't, like, that sucks. But I feel like it resonates.
I definitely think it does. I mean, obviously you have a couple of different projects or focuses that we can get into, but I think your streetwear and just Bushwick life kind of photos are really like a way that you're branding yourself without being brandy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I had this like talk with this photo agent a few months ago, and they just spoke about like, oh, like, I really like that your work is just like hyper specific. Being that, with the photography, you can take so many different photos. I could take a photo of like anything, walking down the street, a car, whatever, but that's like not my interest. It's mainly people. And I guess it's just like self-expression. If I find their self-expression and be like interesting, I want to take a photo of it. And then I start also coming across more photographers that just document. So they're not coming up with like concepts. They're just documenting their life and like what they're seeing, and they find it to be like noteworthy, and then all of a sudden a museum finds it to be noteworthy, and then other people find it to be noteworthy, and then they have books and they sell, and then like that's usually how it goes. But I feel like it has to start with you.
And it sounds like it's almost been a little bit therapeutic as well.
Yeah, because you take this weird pressure off yourself that I guess didn't need to be there, and you just start to find stuff that like speaks to you in a genuine manner. And then if other people, again, I guess if they fuck with it, they fuck with it, but they don't, at least like, this is honest to me.
Definitely.
So it feels pure, I guess.
You seem to really be able to capture, and I know I've said this to you before, but a vulnerability with your subjects that I really enjoy, and I think has weirdly become part of your brand. Can you speak a little bit to your process and how that has evolved?
Yeah, it definitely started just in Soho. So I used to live in New Jersey, and I would drive over on the weekends because I would work in the city during the week. But I was just like, oh, there's like so many interesting people. Because like when you're somewhere else, New York always seems so magical. So yeah, I would come to Soho on the weekends because I thought that was the only place also that fashion was. I was like, Soho, like that's where everyone goes to shop. Yeah, so.
In New York City's early years, Soho was primarily farms and wetland. Collect Pond ran from present-day Canal Street to the Hudson River. With industrialization and population increase, the pond was polluted, and developers paved over it in 1813 to make space for more middle-class housing and the eventual opening of retailers such as Tiffany & Co., originally Tiffany Young & Ellis, and Lord & Taylor, which started in Two Bridges on Catherine Street in 1826 and became one of New York City's first major department stores in Soho. By the mid-19th century, this increased tourism and jump started the entertainment industry, theater, and red light districts in the area, pushing out the middle class and making space for manufacturers and textile companies to build warehouses. With increased need during World War II, production was moved to Brooklyn and New Jersey, where there was more available space, leaving abandoned warehouses available for artists and designers to reclaim in the 1960s. It became known for its fashion, but with increased rents, tourism, and international brands, there was no longer much room for artists. Bushwick was a bucolic 17th century town that grew into a robust 20th century working class neighborhood. Dutch, Swedish, and Norwegian settlers first colonized the area around 1640, and by 1660 had formed Bushwick, which means town of woods. By the 1830s, it had been urbanized. The Brooklyn waterfront became a bustling zone of shipyards, warehouses, distilleries, sugar refineries, and manufacturing plants, all attracting German and later Italian immigrant workers. Bushwick was built up with densely packed 2- and 3-family homes, retail strips, warehouses and factories, and some mansions. In the mid-1960s, Bushwick began its decline with real estate agents and speculators using scare tactics and a practice called block busting to scare white residents into selling their homes at low prices in order to resell those homes at inflated prices to impoverished Black Southerners and Puerto Ricans, many of whom defaulted and had to abandon their homes. By 1972, in one city estimate, some 500 Bushwick buildings stood empty because of the bad loans and the depressed housing prices those loans led to. In the next decades, it fell further into decline with the crack epidemic and neglect from city authorities. In the 1990s, prices across the city increased, and with nearby neighborhoods being revived, artists, writers, and students started moving to Bushwick. Some misled by realtors to believe that they were in the already gentrifying nearby Williamsburg, attracted by the large loft spaces and abandoned warehouses that ringed the area. Now there are big investors and new entrepreneurs reshaping Bushwick and making it quote-unquote trendy. These two neighborhoods seem to have taken similar trajectories of industrialization, decay, and revival, giving them the edgy, trendy, once dangerous, now cool New York City feel. They have large spaces with repurposed warehouses that allowed for artists and creators to thrive before becoming too expensive for those creatives to stay. Bushwick hasn't still hit the levels of tourism that Soho suffers from and still maintains more of a neighborhood vibe.
I would go there and I would just like go through the streets and just like stop people and ask to photograph them. And I remember at the time, I think I had just got my Instagram, so it was like maybe I had like 100 people following me. Mm-hmm. So it was super awkward to go up to someone and be like, yo, let me take your photo and follow me. And you're like, oh, I'm 101. Like that's really weird. But then after a while, I continued to do it, started to get more confident. And then by the time I got to Bushwick, I kind of had my spiel down of like how I want to approach a person and then just get them to be a bit more comfortable.
So out of this sort of streetwear inspired look, I know you've done some studio sessions. You dropped a zine last year. Could you speak a little bit towards the inspiration behind those works?
Yeah, so that goes back to like going to like McNally and looking at photo books there and finding it to be maybe like almost like therapeutic when I would just start to see people's work where the picture was accompanied by some words and like a story, and you can like actually feel this person. You feel like you know them based off of like what you're reading.
Sarah McNally opened the store in 2004 as a branch of McNally Robinson, a Canadian bookstore chain founded by her parents. In August 2008, she and her partner split the New York store from the parent chain and renamed it McNally Jackson Books. It specializes in new, used, and rare books. Ryan Cook says the photography section could be a store in itself. It's very detailed, hidden away. The photography books can be behemoths. Even books wrapped in plastic can be opened and looked through. People should feel free to open and peruse any book in the store.
So with the studio sessions, the same thing. I would like photograph people on the street. I would follow them for a little bit, get an understanding of like, do I think this person, I can like, I don't know, jam out with this person for a little bit and take their photo. Then I reach out to them. Some people would say yes, some people would say no. But I ended up just taking a lot of images for it and then eventually narrowing it down. But it was just really cool to photograph a lot of people. And then even through that, find out what I found to be interesting. Because you photograph 100 people and then you're like, oh, I'm going to go with like 10. And it's like, why versus all these other people that I photographed? And then whose story was like more compelling, and what are my redundancies in my own images and the people that I capture?
So it sounds like it really comes back to, again, connecting with people and connecting with a story for you. That's really interesting because I look at your art and I see that a lot of the times, you know. I know that throughout the whole fall and winter, when we've kind of been like in these chats, we've come back to a lot of that kind of like, I hate this term, but like the rise and grind kind of stuff. Could you speak a little bit to, you know, moving into and out of creativity and the corporate field a little bit? Because you have a big kid job now.
I guess coming from college, I knew that I wanted to like make money. Like that was obviously something that I felt that was important. Student loans. Also, just this people I went to school with, a lot of them were in finance, so they came right out the gate telling me how much they were making. And I was like, oh so shit. you can make money in the corporate world, and they could support themselves and they can move around and they can do things. So I found that to be appealing. And then I guess when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I knew I had a degree, so I knew I could possibly get a job, but I knew that I also was interested in like art and fashion and stuff like that. But then I didn't know anyone around me who was making money off of it.
Right.
So everyone, either a hobby or they were like barely getting by. So I said, okay, if I go into the corporate world and I could find an angle almost or something that I'm good at, I can like support this like practice that I want to develop. So I think that's just always been an approach. Like, I mean, I enjoy parts of corporate America. It's also taught me accountability. It's talked
a lot about that.
It's taught me like follow up. Yeah. I mean, like actually bring into fruition like the ideas that you have, because you can't keep on going into a job and just going there and like nothing happens. Like you have to push projects along. So being in corporate kind of taught me that, like, yeah, you can have an idea, because people, you know, at these jobs have ideas all the time, but then eventually your boss or whomever is like, all right, we need to release this product. Here's a timeline. You know, what are you doing? You know, here's a deadline. Are you dropping the ball? All that stuff. So I think that just goes back to my own work. If I put like that pressure, I guess, on myself.
I think that's excellent. I think the follow through and accountability, like I said, that was something that we began to discuss. And I think even just in our meetings, like really helped me. I don't know about you, but like I was saying earlier, just having someone to say, hey, yo, you had that idea last week. Like, let's continue to discuss that. Coming back to the zine a little bit, with that project specifically, when you began to shoot that project, was there an intent to have a product eventually, or was it more about learning how to tell another person's story?
Yeah, I think I knew going into it that I wanted to have a final product. I think just in the sense of, for me, it's, and maybe other people do, but I think it's to a certain extent weird to like take so many photographs and then do nothing with them.
Right.
So I think for me, it was like this weird pressure of like, I'm shooting these people, I'm asking them to send me questions, I'm doing all this work, and then if nothing was to come of it, I don't know, it just feels like, yo, like I just wasted these people's time. Even though like I was learning something in it, for nothing to come from it is, to me, is just like hella weird. Versus even if I didn't include, I mean, there's a number of people I obviously didn't include, but they still got to see like, oh, and they still purchased it. It was like, yo, this is really cool that you did this, like even though they weren't a part of it. So I felt like it, while I was doing it, I was just like, yeah, you have to do something with these photos, even if it comes out to me to a place where I didn't like it, or I look back on the photos and be like, oh, this was my best work. It was just like, if I don't put it out, then I'll keep on talking about it. And yeah, it gets weird to be like, hey, I want to shoot you, and then it's like, what's gonna happen? Oh, nothing. I'm just gonna like keep these photos.
You're like, nothing. They're just in a bank vault somewhere.
yeah, they never see the light of day. But it was great shooting with you. Yeah, so
we were Alex, who was my episode 4 guest. They were talking about being less precious with their art and releasing it and showing it. And I feel like I see that a lot in your daily practice of shooting on the street and posting, and it's kind of nice to be like, okay, this is the work that I'm a little less precious about. This is the work that I'm going to like maybe have a little bit more intent about, and kind of having those different forms of art, I think can be really beneficial to the art as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, and that really just came from a homie, like one of my friends, and who's a close friend of mine. He's a photographer too. He lives in Pittsburgh. He was just always, when I would hold on to stuff or I would show him, he's just like, share it with the world, bro. Like, why are you just like sending it to me? Because it was just like, he's like, it's dope. I think it's cool. Like, let other people see it.
Yeah.
And then you have someone in your ear just constantly buzzing and telling you to do that. Eventually you're just like, oh shit, like, yeah, why not? Because like, if people don't jive with it, you're just like, damn, okay. Like it's almost like I get curious to like, I wonder why, like, am I not presenting it in the right context? Like, am I just not that good? Is there, I mean, it goes probably back to like insecurity, but then that kind of keeps me hungry, because I'm like, y'all gonna feel it eventually. So that's how I go about it.
Yeah, I definitely think, because so we first shot together probably 2018, I want to say.
Yeah, like
like winter 2018, and then I guess a couple times like 2019, and then we shot together again last year, which was amazing. And you shot my professional headshot as well, and I've always felt very like, I can tell you, like, I want to be a boss bitch, like I want to feel fucking sexy, I want to feel like, you know, and you'll like roll with that and like rock it. And I think that that's really important to kind of have that lens of knowing the person. But I think you capture that in people you don't even know that well.
Yeah, I guess it's just maybe it goes back to like perhaps me being vulnerable, because like I am out in the street, I'm just approaching people who I don't know. It's really easy for people to be like, who are you? Like, get away from me. Like, no, I don't want you to take my photo. So yeah, I am being pretty vulnerable and like opening up. So I think at times that helps the other person like open up. But then, you know, at times people just like, no, I don't know you, like, bye. But it's nice when people are receptive or stop at least, and then hear my like pitch and they're like, all right, cool, I'll go along with this.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of, I don't know, I don't want to say like successes, but in terms of things that excite you, what are some of the things that you have accomplished and hope to accomplish that excite you?
I think it's just finalizing the ideas that I have. So just like putting a timeline to them and actually like just pushing them out.
Yeah.
So this other thing that I shot over last year, it was in a studio over by the Morgan stop. Like I just want to push that out in fall and then work on the show and do that stuff. Just like finalize my own ideas and then see what happens from there. Cause I feel like all the other stuff is just a result of that. Cause I obviously I want to have my stuff featured in, you know, everywhere, but that takes time.
No, for sure. I mean, that's what you want. Yeah. So can people expect this next project to be in a zine form?
Yeah, probably a zine. I would want to do a show around it just to show it in I feel like it's proper context so people can see it and sit with it maybe a little bit longer than they can with a book. I mean, you can sit with a book for forever, but just, I don't know. I know when I walk into a gallery or museum, I can sit with the image and just be blown away by it. Versus sometimes a book I can get like distracted, get on my phone and whatnot. So I'm just thinking through that.
And just because I know some people, you know, really nerd out on this stuff, can you tell the audience a little bit about like what you shoot on, what format and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I was given this Fuji film camera from a friend last year, and it was just like, hey, it's basically like a bigger 35 millimeter, which I still shoot with. And this Fujifilm is 6x4.5, so it's medium format, so it's a little bit bigger, but it's still like I shoot on automatic sometimes, and if I'm like, I guess like in studio, then I'll put it to its proper settings. But yeah, it definitely functions like a pretty big point and shoot.
That's awesome. Nice. Because that's kind of that, I think, I mean, that's sort of your vibe is just like capturing people. I love, like, I feel like there's been times where I'm seeing someone on, you know, on your feed and I'm like, oh, that person looks dope. Or like, I feel like I recognize this person, you know, because we're like out in the same neighborhood or whatever. But yeah, I can see how that would be like extremely versatile for what you've been doing.
Hi, my name's Greg.
My name's Brendan.
And together we are Fab the Duo.
And you might recognize us from the jingle that you hear on this podcast.
Yes, and we are popping up on here to tell you about our shows coming up. We have one at the Bitter End on Thursday the 24th at 6:30 p.m.
And we have one at the Cutting Room in New York City on Sunday, June 27th at 7:30 p.m.
All tickets and info can be found at fabtheduo.com/shows.
Hope to see you there. Bye.
Bye.
Cool. So I know we've spoken a lot in the last like 9 months about, you know, putting together this show for our listeners. We have a show on June 20th in Bushwick.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Which is kind of going to be like, I don't know, like there's stuff happening, obviously. There's been stuff creeping in, but this feels like a culmination of a lot of emotions for me.
Okay.
A lot of like, okay, we're back. We can do this. We're okay.
Okay.
What are you feeling going into, like, I know we've talked a lot about not getting distracted, about like remaining focused on a lot of these kind of goals that we've been talking about, actualizing. What are sort of your feelings as the world ramps back up?
I mean, I'm just really excited to see people out and about again. I mean, for my own selfish reasons of taking photos.
You're like, everyone get out in those fits that you have been wanting to wear all year long.
Yeah, so for my own selfish reasons, I'm very excited to see people out and about so I can photograph them. I mean, outside of that, I just think I'm happy to be alive. Like, I made it through like a crazy year, and I just want to keep on making work and just seeing where it goes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, like, obviously I have ideas and like I have things that I want to hit in my head, but I think I'm just enjoying the ride for a little bit.
I feel that. I definitely feel, and I know there's something we've talked about before about investing ourselves into our own futures a lot. And I definitely feel like that is being tested right now because there's so many things dragging me in different directions. I don't know if you've been feeling that at all or if you're just like steady.
No, I mean, definitely with things opening up, you're like, oh, maybe I want to go do that again. And I guess it's more just where you want to invest your time and money, I think, which is always the hardest thing. Because you can just like hang out for so long, and the bars are back open again. So you can just like hang out there and drink. And it's cool, but yeah, you can waste your whole summer.
Exactly.
Pretty quickly.
Which I'm not looking to do at all.
No? You don't want to get turned on a Saturday and just be like, well, my whole weekend's gone. No?
Right. 1 day a week for me is all I need.
Okay, fair enough.
So looking forward, I know we kind of briefly touched on this earlier, but what are some next steps for you? What are some clear goals? You said this show in the fall / new zine possibly? Yeah,
so releasing that, just keeping in contact with like editors. I think it's more, again, like it goes back to that accountability thing. Like keeping in contact with editors that I've reached out to in the past that were just like, yeah, follow up with me. Because one of those things where I've definitely gotten work just out of being persistent and being annoying and just, hitting their inbox over and over till they're just like, okay, all right, we'll let you do something. And then you're like, cool, now I got this thing in my portfolio. Like, cause it's all, I don't know, sometimes it is just all made up in magic, right? People see that you worked with this place, then they're like, cool, you could work with me now. Cause like someone else, gave you like a check off basically. But you've still been the same person the whole time, but it's just like this credibility that you now have. So I think it's that, just like following up, saying you want these opportunities, building this relationship, but continuing to build it past like, okay, we had a great meeting and like now we've been in contact, but it's like, hey, if I haven't heard from you, what's up? Like, how are you doing? Here's some more work that I'm doing. Feature me. You need to
feature me.
I need to be in these people's faces because otherwise you just drift off into the abyss.
You do need to be in these people's faces. I agree. I think your work needs to be seen. And I also feel like kind of that work behind the scenes is so thankless sometimes. Yeah. It feels like nobody sees that I'm fucking working every day. No, But I think it's so important, like you said, just like keeping up with these people, being in these people's faces. I'm so excited to see you do that.
Yeah, I'm trying
or continue to, I should say. Yeah. Well, amazing. Where can the people find you?
Oh, so you can find me on Instagram under Corey, Corey _ Jermaine, Jermaine.
All righty. I'm just going to conclude with what has been my thesis for this whole first season, which you are our season 1 finale guest.
Oh, hey. I feel so good.
Having a good day. So my thesis for this first season has been, what does joy look like in a community setting going forward to you?
Oh, that's going to be June 20th. When everybody swings by the show, you're going to see exactly what that looks like.
You will see exactly what that looks like. That's legit. All right. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here, Corey.
All right.
This has been incredible.
This has been great for me as well.
As Corey mentioned, we have a show coming up tomorrow. So please join us June 20th for our art show Groop from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. at 87 St. Nicholas in Brooklyn, New York, featuring work by Corey Jermaine, Nadia Fadiv, and Ephraim Munez, curated by myself. AP Studio Files can be found on all your streaming platforms. Please share with your friends. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at AP Studio BK. I truly could not have done this first season without the incredible help of my team. Shout out to our multi-talented technical producer, Anya Kopishki, incredible photographer Tucker W. Mitchell, stunning theme music by Fab the Duo, and insightful research by H. Conley. Special thanks to Kayla Littman, Rachel Kreberg, Tim LaSalle, Alexandra Cole, Carrie Blue, and Dana and Charlie Pike, and anyone who listened, participated in, or encouraged me during this first season. You know who you are, and I cannot fathom this season without your support. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been an AP Studio production in association with Apartment Party.